listening to Make It, a podcast by Bonsai Creative that helps creatives in film get where they're going faster by sharing the advice, knowledge, and insights of professional creatives across the film industry. I'm your host, Chris Barkley, and with me today is my good friend and Make It podcast co-host, Nicholas Bugs. Hello. Chris here with another episode of the Make It podcast. And this is a special indie talk because this is our 2021 best of show. Only 10 days late.
Only. That's it, bro. It's all good.
And like you told me when we first met, better late than never.
There you go. You got it.
That was what you taught me every time we scheduled anything together.
Yes, right.
Look, at least you showed up.
Yes, thanks,
I know
Chris.
you're here several hours after the time we scheduled the event.
Yep.
But you darkened my door, and that's all I needed.
Yeah, and I appreciated you calling to let me know that you were only 10 minutes away. Every 30 minutes. I mean, I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Every 30. What people don't know. Okay, so here's what people don't know that are listening, or they may not know, is that 1 out of every 4 drivers in Nashville is legally intoxicated at any given time. This was a survey from 3 or 4 years ago. And so as I'm coming out to you, there are checks. Breathalyzers. Boom.
Oh, yeah.
1, 2.
Yeah.
Now, you got to imagine these thousands of cars. 1.
Right, yeah.
I think I'm 10 minutes away. I think I'm 10 minutes away, and then it's, hey, Nick, I'm still 10 minutes away. Actually.
Totally understood. That,
I'm not
every time
people, so I know I'm going to go through the check.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, every time you're on your
Saturdays, way. On Fridays.
Got it.
They did it. They did it on Sundays.
That's the route that you took was...
Right. These were the checkpoints.
Got it.
440.
Yeah.
They did it on Mondays, Tuesdays.
Probably Wednesdays and Thursdays. I think
They did it all the days I was driving.
Exactly.
Is the point. But that being said, lateness still gives you potential for what? Greatness. And what we want to do today is give you greatness. And we have some things on the plate. We're going to go through what our best performances of the year are. Best film, best production company, best indie distributor, best indie director, best festival to go to, and our best podcast moments. And we brought friends here with us as well to do it. And so, Nick, why don't we jump right in and invite our first guest? Unless you want me to go back to the beginning and make sure I do like the preamble where I say, Nick, say hello and all that stuff.
Nah, man, we're in it, bro.
We're
in it. We're in it because, we're in it. Let's go.
It's all good. Okay, let's bring in our first guest speaker, our first guest announcer of the Best of 2021, former podcast guest, Robert Broadhurst. And he is joining us now, hopefully connecting to the audio here. And when he jumps on, Nick, what we'll do is we'll have him reintroduce himself, maybe, if he'd like to. We will give him, let's say, a runway to air grievances. If he wants to air, there he is. There's the man.
But what if Robert doesn't want to introduce himself? Like, then what do we do? Like, I don't understand. That could just mess us all up. It's just, look at him. I can see his face. Like,
This is a potential problem.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to meet you. B, good to see you. C, I actually went to a Q&A for Red Rocket recently, and it was Brie Elrod, the actor, and And the moderator was this like lady who only declared that she works in porn without ever declaring who she actually was.
Because she expected you to know who she was.
So this is somebody who works in porn. I don't know what capacity or what the deal is. I obviously recognize the actor from the movie. It turns out it was Asa Akira, who's like one of the bigger porn stars ever. And
wow.
I had no idea the whole time.
If your first name is Asa, you kind of like, you have to enter porn the way that
I think it's
your
probably
first name
Asa.
is Jeeves. You're a butler.
You hear that? It's probably Asa, but that's not what was in his head. I get it. 100%.
Robert, you're doing what I do with Ghislaine Maxwell. I cannot... Ghislaine or whatever. I cannot pronounce her name unless I say Ghislaine Maxwell. I cannot. I've trained myself to say it the wrong way, and we're going to take that conversation to the bar in Manhattan. So, is that where you're at right now? Are you?
I'm in Brooklyn. Yeah,
Brooklyn.
Yeah. What do you guys? You want me to introduce myself? Yeah.
If you'd like, go ahead. We introduced you.
Well, we
kind of introduced you, but go ahead and introduce yourself again.
You're going to edit all this. It's like, are we free to talk right now, or?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
So we're recording. We're in it. We're going to just roll and just have a good time. Like, there's no need to edit. What is an edit?
Edit.
We're not editing out the fact that his earbud just fell out of his ears. This is all good.
That's.
This is live.
I'm going to need an upgrade. She's going to need to go back to the well. I'm afraid it's going to be difficult for her. I just wanted to know what the format was and what I could do to facilitate it. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me say some things about you first. Robert Broadhurst was our podcast guest earlier this year, one of the first guests on the podcast this year. Amazing year on the cast. I had so much fun talking to you, man. I just can't even explain it, and learned so much in our short conversation. So if people want to go find it, we don't actually number our conversations by episode, but you can go back to January 26th of 2021, and you can get caught up on everything that is in the film world of Robert Broadhurst. He's an incredible director and pretty much does anything you need him to do in film, I would probably guess. Is that fair to say that you can wear a variety of hats?
I mean, I can fake those hats till I make those hats. Yeah.
Ooh, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, how do you feel about that though, Nick? Like with the Elizabeth Holmes thing going down and everyone sort of making it an issue of maybe we should stop telling people to fake it until they make it.
No, I think there's an intention behind that, right? Which is especially like applying all these different skills. But some of it's like, just say what it is that you are, as opposed to saying that you're trying to be that thing, right? Okay. So you're not really faking it if you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? You just might not be doing it as well now as you will be, after you mess up a couple times and you learn some lessons. So, I think it's the intent behind it. Right. If you're legit faking and you're just putting out some garbage and, you're a pretender, that's a whole different story. But that's not the intent behind the statement.
Yeah, I've got a friend, Marcus Whitney, who did a whole TED talk on fake it until you make it. And, there is this line that you have to ride between unbridled optimism and delusion, the delusion of the entrepreneur, let's say, and fraud. And, for him, he was like at night teaching himself how to code, and during the day telling his employer he knew how to code. Now, is that grift? Or is that good? He eventually taught himself to code, did the job really well, left, started his own company, and now he's like he's like a serial entrepreneur, successful at everything he does, and he just released his book last year, first book. So he's a published author now. And I think the book did pretty well. I I don't know. What do you think about that, Robert?
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between confidence and putting in the work to get there and fraud. And I think, you always have to bridge, with confidence and risk, the gap between what you can do, at present and what you will be able to do. I mean, if you don't risk that, you're just never going to get there.
Yeah, right.
But there's a huge, I'd say Elizabeth Holmes is in a completely different category. She wasn't, learning science at night. She was just deepening her methods of grift,
Yeah. I think she felt like she knew what she was going to know. She was like a character out of The Fountainhead or something, where she's like, well, I'll leave Stanford.
Very much.
I'm ready to go. And I think I understand how this game works through the media, and I'm going to manipulate the media. They're going to love this story because I'm a woman. Unfortunately, I think that's a huge part of it. Hate me for it, whatever. But I think it's a huge part of it. And I do think, like you said, Nick, it's intention. It's like you actually put someone's logo on letterhead as a partner that actually you didn't have a partner. Like you never even talked to them. Like that's pretty intentional. That's beyond like a founder that just like didn't make it work and burned your money. And we go through that investing in films, right? Like what is the tightrope between fraud and a filmmaker that just isn't working hard to return your investment? It's probably for another call, but it's an interesting topic. We should probably explore it because we've met true fraudsters in film, and we've met filmmakers that desperately want to make your money back and execute on those things. And then we've met filmmakers who if a fairy gave them an idea, they'd be like, yeah, thank God. But outside of that, they're not going to try to make your money back. So we're going to explore that topic in the next inning talk.
In the next one, yeah. But when you mentioned that, though, I kind of wonder for Robert, like you do a lot of commercial work.
Yeah.
And have you ever picked up a project from someone else that didn't actually like get it done for the client, and they were like, "We got to call somebody else," and like they called you and they're like, "Hey, can you fix this for us? Has that ever happened to you?"
I haven't been in a lot of situations. There's certainly been situations where I've been called in to, put out fires. I wouldn't say that I encountered the remnants of outright fraud. There might, there are people out there who just they're not on the level.
Right.
And a lot of the sort of gatekeepers in certain situations don't know the difference. Because, on some level, they literally aren't educated about each of the roles that we play. And consequently, whether intentionally or not, they devalue whatever the specific skill is, because you say you're this, well, one version of this, let's say a director, an editor, whatever, is as good as this other version. Mm-hmm. And in fact, everybody's skill set is wildly different, their experience, their talent, their taste level. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely had to sort of take over a couple of things over the years, but not many. I mean, for better or for worse, there are a lot of really capable people in this market. So it doesn't happen a lot.
Is it word of mouth that allows you to differentiate value? Like you mentioned, so there's all directors aren't the same, right? So let's say, director A costs, 50% of what you cost, right? But the director also is not near 50% the quality or have the experience that you do. Like, do you encounter that where people are like, hey, well, your cost is this, but hey, I could get this other director to do it and it cost me this much. Like, what's the way that, a filmmaker like yourself can stand up for your value is my point. That's the question.
Yeah, it's tricky. I think, saving a buck is endemic, certainly to the advertising industry. And I think it's only gotten more extreme over the years. But first, let me say, I've never replaced anybody as a director. I definitely have as an editor on a couple things over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember, having somebody tell me back, like, this was like when I was like a relatively new editor, but I was still on the level. Somebody wanted to pay me, like an insulting amount of money to do a job. And I was like, well, it's going to cost you triple that if you want me to do it. And they said, but my 18-year-old nephew knows Final Cut or video editing or whatever. And I was like, cool, they should cut that Mercedes commercial. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Today, it might not be that bad an idea, but then it was a really silly idea.
Right.
And in terms of directors, I think that happens a lot. I think that there's a lot of undercutting. And I think in a lot of cases now that everything has moved to social and that there's sort of a UGC, user generated content aesthetic that's prevalent. People are probably fine paying half for getting less than half the quality a lot of the time because they just need a turn. They just need content.
So directors are going to maybe chase that number.
Ideally not, but I think in some cases, you got to eat. So, ideally you develop the kind of reel and you have the kind of team where they're like insulating you from bad opportunities.
Yeah.
But, in lean times for sure. I've had friends who are further up the totem pole than I am. And there's like a low budget, but good creative type of project. And my friends are really good, but they're bidding against like the biggest names you can think of.
Right.
Because those guys, A, just want to work and B, want to work on something cool. So they can afford to work for nothing because they've already been established and they're already, making money. So,
wow.
I think there's a race to the bottom in a lot of categories, but there's some people who still really value, a certain kind of quality.
It happened already in visual effects, and it's funny because Nick's question kind of went from quality to price. You see it with quality in screenwriting a lot, right? Like, okay, can you come in and take this to the finish line for us? But from a price standpoint, that's one of those where you're actually fighting the ease of like the skill set you might have developed over years is being learned rapidly by software. So the kid with the app can do similar things without having to do the same climb. It's really interesting. 2021, the best of 2021. Now, we brought you here specifically to give us a sense of, who would you like to shout out as someone we should look for in the directing field, best director of 2021. But I'd love for you to give me anything that you thought was sort of noteworthy, and Nick and I should say, that's noteworthy in 2021 that people should check out. And we definitely want to get your best film that you saw in 2021, indie or not.
Okay. Full confession. I've seen, thanks in part to sort of Omicron coinciding with awards season and all that, I have not been to the theater as much as I had tended to be in the theater. And I really don't like watching things that are available on Netflix just because they are available on Netflix. Mm-hmm. Jane Campion directs a movie. I want to see that movie in the theater on the biggest screen that I can. That's how that is. Yeah. So I haven't seen Power of the Dog, for example. I haven't seen Hero. I haven't seen Lost Daughter. I haven't seen Come On, Come On. There's a ton of stuff I haven't seen. Before I even shout out a movie, I need to shout out Underground Railroad, because that is a masterpiece and not enough people are talking about it. And I can use Joel Edgerton, who's amazing in that, to segue into the first of three movies I want to mention that I did see. in 2021, which would be Green Knight, because he's also in Green Knight, and Green Knight was just fantastic. Every department, I would say, gets an A+. And that's rare in a movie. I think it was a really special movie, and it was the first special movie that I saw in 2021. I thought it was fantastic on so many levels. Just really wonderful. Another one to shout out would be Titan, or as we in America would say, Titan, which is just a mind bender, face melter, incredible experience. Probably the craziest experience I've had in a movie theater in a decade or two. Like, it's just it's a singular experience, and I can't say exactly what it amounts to, but the amount of feeling that I got from it, and the amount of sort of sorting and wondering and fantasizing that my brain had to do while in that movie was pretty priceless. So that's a really special one. And then the third is one I mentioned a little earlier, Red Rocket by Sean Baker. That was amazingly shot during the pandemic. Tiny crew, but it's like the Lawrence of Arabia of scrappy indie films. It's just really incredible. And honorable mention, which is a funky thing to say about this movie because it's also like an actually incredible movie, Licorice Pizza.
Oh yeah,
but it's Paul Thomas Anderson, so of course it's like if you think the guy who runs your favorite restaurant opens up another restaurant, you expect it to be very good. It's very good. It was. Everyone should see it. But those other movies really stood out to me as the non-obvious choices. And I want to shout out whatever another to The Scary of 61st, which is Dasha's movie, Dasha from Red Scare. She made a tiny little horror movie about Jeffrey Epstein, and it's pretty fantastic. I'm only halfway through, which is why I can't fully shout it out, but it's great. Also very scrappy and feisty and smart and cool.
Oh, well, you gave me quite a list. I've seen one movie on your list. So, but the list you haven't seen, I've seen all of them. So I think that's,
right. I mean, the grass is always greener.
Yeah, exactly. But this is an incredible list. And I never thought that we'd have two Epstein related commentaries in this short chat. Before you jump off, anybody for director? Anybody come to mind? Best directing job in 2021?
I mean, I got to go with Titan. It pushes every boundary. I mean, there's nothing. I would say nothing and everything is sacred about that movie, and it is fearless. So Julia Ducournau definitely for me gets it. Although that takes nothing away from the other directors whose films I mentioned, because they're all like honestly visionary works.
That's beautiful, man. I love that, and it sounds like if you don't watch this in the theater, you kind of cheated yourself.
Titan?
Yeah.
I would say that for all of these, although I know they did do a couple 35 mil prints for The Scary of 61st, but yeah, you want to see Licorice Pizza in 70 millimeter if you can. Green Knight was spectacular on the big screen. Andrew Droz Palermo is, one of these truly gifted cinematographers, and I would say the same of Drew Daniels, who shot Red Rocket, and Ruben Impens, I think, shot Titan, and it's like Yeah. Go see every movie on the big screen if you can. That is the name of the game.
Exactly. And, I love seeing incredible works of art, but they also, same thing happens to me when I listen to a great pianist. I'm like, I should just quit. I should just stop working. I don't know if I can get there, So it's always a double-edged sword. It's bittersweet with me. It's like, God, I wish I'd have made
hear that. I have that moment, but then it's so freeing to me when the assurance that I don't even have to worry about getting to that level. Don't worry, dude. It's not even a possibility. Yeah, just work in your tiny way on what you can manage as best you can, and push that as far as you can go. Because, there's a lot of great art out there, and especially with films, we know how many miracles have to happen to coincide from the original germination of it all the way through the birth canal and onto the screen and at home, from producing to marketing, the PR, all of this, everything, even aside from the actual filmmaking. So I don't know, piano, I guess you're screwed. Really
all the great piano players I knew when I was a kid, they were under threat of violence, made to practice 3 to 5 hours a day every day. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for letting me have a childhood, and the worst piano player for it. I'll live with that. Robert, you're the freaking man, and I love the little piece of advice there at the end. That's perfect place for us to stop, man. Again, Robert Broadhurst, incredible conversation on the Make It podcast. Go back, listen to it. It aired on 1/26/21. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Robert, you're the best. Please don't be a stranger, man.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year. Go see movies.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's good to see you, brother.
See you.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Bye.
Take care, man.
That's awesome.
He's incredible. I told you, he just came back from the movie, and I should have asked him what he watched, but I didn't watch. I didn't ask what he watched. Maybe it was Spider-Man, and he didn't want to mention it. But here we are. Here we are.
Wait. Who's this guy? Look at this guy, man. Yeah. This is one of the sharpest dudes in showbiz right now, man. I need to get the goat going. Look at this. You got the beard looking all lined up.
Trim lined up,
Yeah, man. Looking sharp, brother.
Yeah, because, man, especially if you don't have hair, you got to do something here, right? just saying,
But I said, I might need to handle up then, my brother.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but good to see you, man.
I've been telling him that for years, Tony. And by the way, before we jump right into just skipping past the introductions, let me hit the rewind button and let the listeners know who we're talking to. This is the one and only Tony Scott. And Tony joined us on the podcast actually in 2020. So now a 2021 guest. But we didn't think that mattered because he's an expert in his field. He knows what the hell he's talking about.
That's right.
So go back, listen to our conversation. It was an incredible chat. It happened on October 20th of 2020. That's when it published. Go back and listen to that. Apple Podcast, Spotify. Tony, what has been happening, man? What's new in your world?
Well, as you might imagine, COVID has been a little bit of an issue with
a little bit
as much as any other people in the film business. And I think last time we talked, we thought we had our film what was called Together then, now called Higher Love. We have Dan Glover and Jane Seymour and Stacy Keach and Lynn Whitfield all as the 4 lead characters in the story. And, we thought we had it fully financed. We were going to be going into production in the summer. And then our financiers, our producer who was doing the financing of this from the UK, their financiers were from India, and Delta happened in India. And whoosh, all that money just came right back. So, we had to postpone indefinitely, and we're back in the hunt for the financing for this. So it's kind of interesting that we should be talking about independent production companies and distributors and so on tonight. So it's a really interesting change in the world these days. So
we've been following along with your film and just like tracking it and saying, okay, we want to make sure like this is happening. Okay, this is moving forward. We're excited to see what happens with it. And like we said the night of our conversation a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, we'd still love to work with you and see what happens with that. So
absolutely,
we had to find a creative way to make that happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, the great news is that everybody that reads the script loves it. And they think it's a story that's a great, positive story that is uplifting and, that it touches all the right notes. And it hits audiences that aren't really served very well in terms of older audiences. Yeah. So that's great. Now, the negative on that is because it serves older audiences, there's a real question is, are those audiences going to go back to the theater ever again? And also there's the issue just in terms of the way film finance works, which you guys know, a lot of it is predicated on foreign pre-sales. And very few actors over the age of 60 are, quote unquote, bankable enough to be able to film, to actually finance a movie. And we're not going to get Denzel to do the movie as much as I would love to work with Denzel.
Right. Yep.
That's not going to happen. Okay. So it's, I have to also be realistic about those things. And so the model of financing is really changing in the indie film world and needs to change more, because the reality is most films that are made that are indie today are not going to have theatrical releases.
That's right.
They're going to go to streamers, or they may have a limited theatrical release. And I just before this, because you told me what you wanted to kind of talk about tonight, and I said, well, what were my favorite indie movies of this last year?
Yeah.
And I made a list, just ones that I thought of. So Coda, which I loved. Okay. Apple was the distributor. They bought it at Sundance for $25 million. That movie was not a cheap movie to make, though. But they certainly, the producers did okay on that. Look, you guys have probably seen The Harder They Fall. I had some issues with the movie. I thought it was a little bit excessively violent for no reason at times. But it was a good movie, and it was a fun new spin on the classic Western genre. Yeah. Again, Netflix is the distributor. Power of the Dog, Jane Campion, come on, Benedict Cumberbatch. Are you kidding me? Again, Netflix. Summer of Soul. This is one of the only ones on my list that's not a streamer, and that was one that was distributed by Searchlight. By the way, if you haven't seen Summer of Soul, I highly recommend it to anybody that's interested in music from that era. It was definitely like the Black Woodstock. It was really cool. And Questlove did a great job cutting together all this footage. Very, very cool stuff. U.S. versus Billie Holiday. Here's a movie that Lee Daniels made, okay? Lee Daniels is the director. His production company financed it. Now, if a guy like that can't get theatrical distribution, then who can, right? And that Hulu distributed. Now, admittedly, it's a story that not necessarily everybody knows about Billie Holiday. I mean, I do, but I'm a musician. But at the same time, it starred somebody that wasn't a known actress, Andra Day, who did a fantastic job as far as I was concerned. Really knocked it out of the park. But okay, still Hulu. And just last night, I watched Being the Ricardos, and that was produced and distributed by Amazon, and that's an Aaron Sorkin, writer-director deal. So, the thing is, things are just not taking the traditional path. Neon and A24 used to do a lot of these kind of movies. But if you look at this, Neon did Spencer, and that's Pablo Larraín as the director. I think that cost like $18 million, and they maybe made $11 million so far at the box office.
Yeah.
And Pig, it was they probably haven't made back Nicolas Cage's fee yet. So they've gotten about $3.6 million in the box office. A quirky story for sure. But, again, it had a pretty well-known actor who gets into all sorts of weird movies all the time. He'll do anything if they pay him right. But that one was a good one from that perspective. Okay, so those are the only couple of sort of real indie kind of movies, other than now The Tragedy of Macbeth, and that's just come out. And there you got, Academy Award winner Denzel Washington, Academy Award winning, actress, Academy Award winning director. Come on. And, that one is done by A24, and they are the production company and distributor on it. So
that's a Joel Coen movie too.
And yeah, exactly. The director is, come on. It's a Coen, movie. It's one half of the Coen brothers.
One half, yeah.
But it's okay. He got his wife in it. So it's all good.
But your point is well made, because I left Spider-Man recently. I went and watched it with my youngest daughter, and the engagement of the kids in that theater was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, they were screaming. There was a kid to the right of me that I just had to keep looking at because I wasn't sure what he would do next. And it reminded me, of being in the premiere of Snakes on a Plane.
Yeah.
That was nuts. And the theater engagement in Passion of the Christ was unbelievable as well.
Yeah.
And I left there, in honest thought, first thought in my head was, should I buy AMC stock? Like, I know that I can't get this at home.
Yeah.
I know I can't. And is that worth something? Or is really the case that the Aaron Sorkins and the Joel Coens and, of the world, they're bypassing the theater, not because they have to, like, they're not being Christopher Nolan on it. They're saying, let's just go ahead and get in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
If the money has chased, all the way to streamer, then we'll just go and follow the money to the streamers.
Yeah. And I think that's a change. And by the way, I think a lot of people are looking at what you're saying too, like with Spider-Man. You don't get the same kind of engagement of being in a theater with other people that are really engaged in the movie. But there are only so many of those movies that come out every year.
Yeah,
and is that enough to fill all the theaters, all the screens that we have? I don't think so. And I think that's going to be a hard thing, because then we have the flea on the end of the tail of the movie industry is actually wagging the entire dog, saying we need to have butts in the seats, which I totally understand. That's their business. They got to do it, which means that the big studios are only going to be trying to focus more and more on these big popcorn kind of movies, if you would.
Yeah, you mentioned Spencer.
Yeah.
You mentioned Spencer. Did you watch it?
No, I have not yet.
Okay. I'm not going to spoil anything. Nick, have you seen it? Did you see Spencer?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, no spoilers, dude. No spoilers.
I'm not going to spoil it. It's just one of these movies where everything is done at the highest level you can do it.
I bet, yeah.
It is visually stunning. It is well acted.
Mm-hmm.
The cinematography is incredible. The editing's like a language. It's the score is singular. It's going to stick with you. It drives the movie. And the movie, just for me, it was like a boring, great movie.
Yeah. And see, I can watch boring, great movies at home all day long.
There you go.
And I can watch boring, bad movies even more at home.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you said, you said earlier about going to Spider-Man, am I going to catch that at home? Yeah, well, maybe not, but you're not going to catch COVID at home.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. So, this is the calculus that people are putting in, and they're saying, and am I going to catch having to pay, $15 for a ticket, and plus the really crappy snacks and stuff that I'm going to get, and the time and effort to do that? Is it worth it to do that? And it's got to be something that's really worth it. So it's got to be
an experience.
Special movie.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what Spider-Man was, right? It's about that engagement you're having not only with your own family, but with the other people that are in the room.
Absolutely.
Right? If it's an experience, you'll pay for the experience. But otherwise, it's funny if you think about streaming versus theater. I was just thinking, I remember, several years ago, I think my wife was asking me about fried green tomatoes.
Yeah.
Right. And we had, it was like several years ago, we had a Blu-ray player. Right. And it's like, she's like, well, let's get fried green tomatoes on Blu-ray. I'm like, why? We have it on VHS. Right. Like, I don't need to see fried green tomatoes on Bluray. Like,
just
I'm good. I'm good. It's just, It's not about the visuals. I don't need to see HD fried green tomato. Like, I'm good. So it's like, yeah, you're right. And I feel like that's the same thing now. It's like, what do I need to see in the theater versus what's okay just watching at home? And I think we've kind of settled on that, where it's like, yeah, if it's not a blockbuster, if there's not an experience, then home is good enough.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's a big change for this last year, for 2021, because in 2020, people were saying, yeah, but as soon as this dies down, people will flock back to the theaters. I don't know, man. I think that, now we've had enough of a period of time where, the consumer behavior has changed fundamentally. And by the way, I've got a nice TV at home. It's not a, it's not like a, OLED display TV, but it's, it's like what most people have. It's 4K TV, flat screen, got a decent sound system with it. And I watched Being the Ricardos last night, and it's beautiful. Okay. Beautifully shot. The production design and, and costumes are absolutely right on. And, it's like, okay, I can enjoy this just as much half lying on my couch, having my glass of wine, as I could go into the movie theater, and maybe more so, because I don't know somebody else, on their phone in front of me over in the corner of my eye that's like distracting me from the screen, or people talking all through that. Who's Lucy?
Yeah, for me, like up here, it's a family of four is about $55 to $60 to go to a movie.
In LA, it's probably closer to 100.
See, and I haven't even added food in yet. That's just tickets.
I mean, tickets alone,
right? No drinks, no popcorn. I'm like, I'm gonna pop you some popcorn in the theater, son. Like that's how it's gonna be. But like,
I'm gonna put the Jiffy Pop on, guys.
You mean your home theater? You mean your home theater?
Right. So like, that's the thing. It's like it's expensive, and you talk about people's consumer habits are changing. Man, so Chris and I have executive produced a couple of films, right? And I remember we told friends, we told family, we told coworkers. Man, I had this. I'll call him a friend for the purposes of this conversation. I had a friend of mine,
like a Facebook friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna let it there. That's about good enough for what I'm about to tell you, right? So this friend of mine says, "Hey, Nick, what was the name of that movie again that you guys did?" And he rattled off the name. He's like, that's the movie, right? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, great, I'm going to watch it now. I was like, man, that movie came out like 3 years ago. I was like, well, why are you going to watch it now? He's like, because it's on Tubi for free.
Yeah, exactly.
I went, wait. You're my friend. Like, come on, man, you're supposed to pay for this.
Like, pay to rent it for $3?
Exactly, for $3. You're my friend. Like, you're supposed to pay because you're supporting, and it's $4. It's not anything. And he told me he waited because now it's free on Tubi. I was like, man.
That's how you think about it, and that's your friend, right? But anything that comes up, you look at Facebook when they're, people making comments about a new movie is going to come out. They'll say, when's it going to be streaming? That's like, you see the same question over and over and over.
Exactly.
Where can I stream it? When can I stream it? And it's like, I'll wait till it comes out on Netflix, whatever. Okay, thanks y'all for supporting the arts. But this is why you get the kind of crap that you complain about all the time too.
There you go.
But you get what you pay for, guys. And people, but that's a change, and we as filmmakers are going to have to really adjust to that new environment and figure out, and financiers are going to have to figure out new ways to make sure that they can invest in movies. We still can have a great return. I mean, a fantastic return to investors, but we need to find a way to do it that is mitigating their risk as foreign pre-sales used to, with the new environment of the streaming environment. So
I think the answer is still IP, but can you build a world around something that isn't a superhero? And I think that also, anytime you see you're in a place like we're at now in society, this inflection point where things could go one way or the other.
Yeah.
There's a space in between where folks that have a lot of innovation can change the world right in that space, right? And I'm waiting to see if that happens. Like, who is going to be, for lack of another example, the Elon Musk of film? A theater with incredible HEPA filters, a theater that is a VR goggle. You don't wear VR goggles in there. The theater is a VR goggle.
Yeah.
Smaller micro theaters, smaller spaces that are easier to manage. Theaters that has a 3-star Michelin restaurant attached to it.
Yeah.
Who's going to innovate in the space and take advantage of the inefficiency of these large big box theaters whose real business is real estate?
Yeah.
And they just have to figure out, capacity, their capacity issue. They're trying to say, well, we need 19-year-old boys to come in here and because they don't care about their health, and they're going to eat a lot of concessions, and they're going to get it out of the house. They're going to get out of the house because they're going to follow these soap operas that we call Marvel movies and DC movies. But way before COVID, anybody that had kids could see their kids were like starting to shrink inward and watch all their content on their phone, iPad, computer anyway. So that was kind of already happening. So they're saying, well, what will get them out of the house now? But there's a space in between where you can get everybody else, but you just got to get them a better experience, to Nick's point. Before you leave us.
Yeah, sure.
Did you have a distribution company or production company of the year?
Oh, those are the ones. I actually think it's the streamers. I think that's the way. My answer actually is it's Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. Those are our production companies, distributors of the year. That's really where they're going completely. I mean, if you look at the traditional guys that used to play in the space, Neon, A24, I mean, they're not nearly playing as much as they used to because it's hard to make it work financially.
I think Neon did Card Counter as well.
I don't remember. Maybe,
but they had a ton of partners on that.
Yeah,
maybe that's one of the strategies too. Is like let's bring in 8 different financiers.
Yeah, which of course means you have 16 different problems. But
right, you do. And your
64, more likely 64. It's like 8 squared. But
you're right. Like it feels like you're gonna do 8. You're gonna spread the risk. And then you're going to get one of these companies that does software-based payroll and accounting instead of hiring a CAMA accountant and paying them 1%. And you're going to let that software handle the complexity because there'll be some Silicon Valley founder that's going to be on the hook if their software doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, that's all really possible and doable. But what it does, it may spread the risk around, but it doesn't actually mitigate the risk in the same way that financiers that have become accustomed to lending, basically financing against tax credits and foreign pre-sales. Because that's right now, foreign pre-sales are more or less gone. And very few indie movies are going to get a minimum guarantee from a U.S. distributor, which is what financiers used to look at. It's like, okay, well, I got the tax credits, I got the foreign pre-sales. And if I have those two, if those two make up about 70% of the budget of the movie, then that's a pretty relatively lower risk project. The most I have to lose is 30% of my investment. And I figure as long as the movie can get made at all, we'll probably get that much back because we're going to, So I think that's the real problem if we've lost this whole value of foreign pre-sales and minimum guarantees in the indie movie space. So, which also sort of pushes people more towards, let's do these big things. Because the bigger it is, actually, the more we can mitigate our risk in some ways.
Yeah, we preach that. Like there's a thing here in Tennessee where it's like, how much is your movie? Oh, let me guess, $200,000 or $250,000.
$250,
because that's the limit where you start to get your rebate back.
Yeah,
or you get some rebate dollars, and it's like, how much does the movie actually cost? Maybe it should be $2 to $5 million because I think you'll make your money back. You'll have a greater chance at $2 to $5 million than at $250,000.
Absolutely, you're gonna have a greater chance of getting a better distribution deal and getting better actors, getting better, spending more money on equipment, stuff that's going to go up on the screen. Okay.
Yep.
And, that's the thing. And so, when I first started doing this, movie, the Higher Love movie, I was trying to basically how can I keep it the budget as low as possible and get as much of that onto the screen in terms of quality acting and, things that are look great. So spend the money on anamorphic lenses to rent. Don't do it on sphericals, because I like the way it makes people look. And especially this is a movie that's going to have a lot of, two people talking to one another, and they're older people, want to make them look as great as possible. Yeah. So, having people that know how to do that is what's going to make a difference in the movie. But then, if I started off with, let's see if we can get, Samuel L. Jackson to come and play the role. Not that he's necessarily right for it, because I don't have any motherfuckers in throughout. I can change it, but it'd be a little different movie. Yeah. Just a little bit. But if you do that, then all of a sudden you have something that at least foreign distributors can say, I'd buy that movie. Right. So, and I thought about at one point about earlier about Sharon Stone, because she's big in France still, and so you get one or two, but you don't check them all, right?
So let's go get Jean-Claude, man. Get Jean-Claude.
There you go. Get Jean-Claude and Bruce Willis.
That's right, and Steven Seagal.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bruce Willis, Steven Seagal, and Sharon Stone.
And another one that you could potentially get that people don't think of, Mike Tyson.
Oh yeah, Mike. Iron Mike is good.
That's right. So get Mike just to do a little cameo, put him on the front. Might be good to
go. People might, yeah.
Have to have him work on his voice a little bit. Yeah. Don't tell him I said that, okay?
You're right. No, I'm not going to tell him.
The crazy thing is, it's just the timing. It's just the timing. Like, what surprises people? Like Mike Tyson's, that whole thing started with the Hangover movies. And just the general surprise that was the choice for a cameo early in basically the first turnaround in the film.
Yeah.
And the rest he's doing a one-man play now, and he's doing all these things. So that all just came from a good cameo that was well-timed, where we weren't, as an audience, thinking about Mike Tyson anymore.
No, it was just like a shock when you saw him.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you got him in the right role, doing the right thing, and that's the nuanced stuff that you're talking about, Tony, where it's like, how do I make these guys look good? What are the lenses? What's the timing? How creative can we get here? Because the thing that we don't talk about enough is all that stuff being said about, trying to make up the cost of the film. You also want to spend a little bit more on your film, because at the end of the day, it's got your name attached to it forever. Yeah. And you want to be proud of it.
Yeah, I don't want to ever put out something that's a schlock, okay? That doesn't look good, that, people are not going to like it. Some people are going to love it. That's okay. That's why we have horse races. Thank God people have different pieces of taste. Otherwise, we'd be watching the same movie, all of us the same all the time. Yeah. But, that's fine. Yeah, it's absolutely making sure you do a quality job. The best you can do with the budget you have, and trying to make sure as much of that budget gets up on the screen, and which is really critical, because that's what people are going to judge you on. I think about Being the Ricardos. Yeah, I know they had to pay Nicole Kidman and Javier Bardem a ton of money, and I'm sure Aaron Sorkin made a ton of money, but it looked great. Okay, I totally was absorbed into it. I was saying, this looks like 1950s LA. Production, that's going on in a studio. I totally go for it. And all right, so you need to make sure that as a filmmaker, that you're able to, one, tell a great story. It all starts with the story, and then number two, make sure you're able to tell that story also visually in a way that's going to be appealing to people to watch. Whether that's appealing in the way because it's going to scare you to death, or it's appealing because you're going to make you fall in love with the people that are on the screen. Whatever that is.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. What a great place to end. the wisdom of Tony Scott. Tony, don't be a stranger. Thank you for giving us your best of 2021.
Guys, always happy to talk to you and talk to your audience. I mean, love it very much. You guys are doing great work. I really like all the stuff you guys are doing. And so I do hope we can figure out a way to work together sometime.
Awesome, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It means the world coming from you, man. Talk to you soon. Be safe.
Sure. Guys, appreciate it.
Keep fighting the good fight.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Enjoyed that very, very much. Tony's a smart guy, you know?
He is.
Like he's just worldly too. Quietly, humbly going about his way and doing the detailed thing. Wait,
I hear somebody.
Look who we have with us right now.
Before we introduce and do all that, I have to do it. So, Chris, I don't know if you saw it, but right there on Valerie's Zoom, you can see it. Evil laugh.
Yeah,
I just had to do it. It was queued up.
How did you come up with that Zoom name? Did you just do that tonight, like on the spot, or is that your name?
No, that's the name of my cell phone. So I'm doing this on my phone, not on my laptop. So that's what I named my phone.
That's perfect. I love it.
It fits your personality too, like to a freaking T. I'm so glad you're able to join. I told Nick before we started recording this lovely podcast that we had to bring Valerie on for a few minutes because she consumes so many books. You are such a voracious reader of books that she's going to have opinions on the best things of 2021. And it's just going to be like flowing out of her. She'll have to really like focus in to think of which one she'll pick. That's my guess. Is that fair to say? Is that true?
Yeah. For the Christmas holiday, I went to my library and I requested like $50, but I didn't organize my holds requests. So I got like 20 books at once, and I've been literally reading a book a day. I'm not exaggerating.
Wow. You're awesome. I love it.
I told you, dude. She's unbelievable. Okay, let's give like the formal introduction here. We are being blessed and graced by Valerie Barnhart. She is an animator extraordinaire, and she joined us on a podcast, one of the first guests of 2021.
Yep.
So if you go back to February 2nd, 2021, you can listen to our incredible, wide-ranging conversation. Valerie breaks down a ton of things and hits us with motivation in that episode. I loved that conversation, Val, because your message to people was, you can do it, you can figure it out. And if you're not figuring it out, there's something there, because it might take you 3 years, but you have to start somewhere. And there's nothing to it but to do it. Like you can't let money be the reason why you never get started.
Exactly.
Yeah. And remind me again, like how much, I can't remember the number you gave. It was like an extremely low number that you made your short film for.
Oh, 1,000 Canadian. So like the exchange rate, that's like 700 and change US.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful short. Like we got to put that out there. Like it's awesome. Like that's not like 700 is huge for what you did. Like we're super impressed. I don't know how many people I've told about it. I'm just like spreading the word like wildfire.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm all on it. Oh yeah.
The only people, and this is full disclosure, Val, the only people I would not show the film to is mothers.
All right, that's fair.
I've done it.
You showed it to a mom?
I did, because the thing is, it's like, well, it's just, it's heart-wrenching though. But at the same time, as a parent, right? So mother or father, it feels like it just brings you closer to your children. Like if you have that good relationship with your children, it makes you want to hug them tighter. Like that's the thing. Like that's what it was for me. It was just, and that's why I would tell mothers about it. It's like, listen to the story and their heart bleeds for them. But again, at the same time, it's like, That's why I keep my kids close.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you hold them tight. Like, that's why. And it was an amazing thing. And now here's the deal. Like, I know, we're gushing over this one, right? But I know that since then, was that 2017, 2018 timeframe?
2019 was when it made its
debut.
Yeah.
But you've had another film as well, right? In 2019. Works. It's in the works. Okay, so before we get into some of the best, like what's going on with that? I want to know about that one.
Well, absolutely. To continue the success story, right? Like when you have a successful short go through the festival circuit, you can leverage that in order to get your next film made.
Yep.
So by doing that, I'm now with the National Film Board of Canada with like a fully funded, like it's insane. Like to be in a position where it's not a matter of how do I save money on my budget, is now we have a budget, so we have to now spend the money.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible.
You flip, right? It's 100%.
It's a completely different vibe. So I told my producer that like she's in a magical position where everything is just like a lottery to me. I'm like, I get that. I get that. Oh.
What's your producer's name? Who are you working with?
Yelena Popovich.
Say it again.
Yelena Popovich.
Got it. Got it. And tell everybody what part of Canada you're in.
I'm in Ottawa, so the capital. It's a really boring city, nestled between Montreal and Toronto.
Nice.
Yeah. I still want to go. So
yeah, for real.
You didn't talk me out of it. Yeah. And by the way, for those listening, just to throw this in, Nick, if you want to go see Valerie's short film that she made in 2019, it's called Girl in the Hallway. You can watch it. Where, Valerie?
On Vimeo.
Okay, so Vimeo, go check it out. That way you can see if you agree with us or disagree with us. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised and very excited for what Valerie has coming up next. Sorry, Nick, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, so we saw what we saw, right? Which was, the results of the process of the learning, right? That you taught yourself, and you taught yourself with what you had. You made this film based off of the resources that were available to you. And as you just mentioned, they were limited. But now you're in a different position. So how does this new project change? Like, are you doing something vastly different? Are you expanding upon what you've done? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, she's like, oh, no, I'm changing the game now. I got me some money, some resources.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally different. It's a different form of animation, which I have to learn. It's now I'm working with people, so I have to actually direct people and direct technicians, which is a very different experience when you're like completely by yourself and you really have only yourself to answer to, like, like having executives and like producers and like other people I have to answer to, which is a different experience. Yeah, everything about it. Like, I can't make this film by myself.
Okay.
Like, and that scares me because before it was like I knew how to do everything, and now I have less control.
So if you're spending your time like learning this new form of animation, do you feel like you need to spend any time, or like, do you have a plan for learning sort of how to run a set?
Yeah. Like it's similar to running like any like directing is the same job. Whether I'm doing live action or animation. So like instead of a cinematographer, I'm doing the layout. So it's the same idea. So instead of like, I still have to talk to an editor and we're still going back and forth with editing. Like, the cinematographer would also be kind of like the storyboard artist. So like I'm dealing with storyboard artists, like I'm dealing with technicians, like other animators, and, like I'll be like, okay, animate this. And then they do it. And then they're like, no, more like this. Like, and like just go back and forth and adjust. And I'm enjoying the process. Like I really am. It's completely different. Like they weren't joking when they said every film is completely different from your other films. Like it's a very different vibe. And same with the topic, it's not so emotionally charged. So I find it a lot easier And again, more fun because I'm trying to crack jokes, right?
Yeah.
That's nice. Yeah, because there's no joking in the other one. So this one, huge departure, new stuff, new exciting, cast, crew, everything about it is different. So that's awesome.
There's a filmmaker out in LA named Terry Jingles, and he is working on an animated film. Might be live action. I don't know. But he was saying, coming from the feature space, that he got taught some really important lessons, because he said with animation, the process is backwards.
Yeah.
As compared to feature films. I thought that was really interesting.
So like, for example, editing is done in pre-production.
Yes.
I was like, what?
Which makes sense, because animation is so hard and costs so much money. We don't make mistakes. So we plan it all out before we animate anything.
That's what he learned. He was like, the budget is like, he's already 40 grand in or something like that, he said.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be like 20, like he didn't, like the story's getting out of his hands now. And he was the writer because he mistakenly approached it as a feature. And didn't approach it as an animation film, which,
gotcha.
Yeah, it works back. Just what Valerie said. Like,
but I love that. She was like, "No, we're animators. We don't make mistakes. Not a thing we do
because it costs too much. It costs too much to make." She's exactly right.
Yeah,
like you can't if you don't get that part right, it's so expensive. Like to go back, especially if you're working with someone who has a fee. And you're not like kind of the animator. You're like Terry doesn't know how to draw.
Yeah.
Like he's not doing that stuff. So, and he doesn't know the software. Like it'll come out on our, we have a little content series, Val, that's going to come out soon. Like I think next Sunday, called Mistakes in the Making. And he's going to have one of those. And that's where you'll hear the entire story instead of,
and I'm going to put a plug.
My like memory of it, which is probably shitty.
But I'm going to plug it because Valerie's going to have to do it too. Like we're going to have to. I'm telling you, because the key here is just the idea behind Mistakes in the Making is like, what mistake did you make during some process in filmmaking that turned out to be a blessing in disguise?
Yep.
Right.
Oh, that's Girl in the Hallway.
See, I know. Don't tell us. We're stop. We're gonna do it.
We'll do it separately.
Exactly, because everyone has that, right? Everyone has that thing that they're like, "Man, I wish I didn't do that." But you know what? Doing that led me to this, right? Or I made this mistake. Let's say it's in casting. I cast this person, and they did the horrible job. But then it was like I realized that was actually the character that was perfect for this story. Like it wasn't what I envisioned, but what they brought to life was perfect for the script. So yeah, don't give it away because we're gonna do Mistakes in the Making with you, and it's gonna be awesome. And I can't wait to hear it.
Totally agree. So 2021, best of. We want to hear some of your thoughts on like who you thought gave the best performance of the year, what your best film you saw in 2021 was, but also just how did maybe festivals. I think you went to a few of those virtually maybe or in person. So definitely want to hear that. But I think also I'd just love to hear how 2021 went for you. You being in Canada, like how was it?
Awesome. I got the green light.
Yeah. So that made the year for you.
For a year and a half. So when you sort of have the job and like you don't really, and you don't know what's going on, and they're like rewrite the scripts when you're getting it back from the execs, like yeah. So I got the green light. So I've just been running since then.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Remind
us how the film industry is different in Canada than US. Is it similar to BBC?
Yeah. We'd be more similar to like how things are. We'd be similar to EU, to Europe.
Got it. Man, I'm so excited. That's beautiful. So what do you think? What was the best performance you saw in a movie this year?
Oh, best stuff. Like Adzola. Directed by Zanika Bravo. Like, that is such a well-crafted film. Like A24 released it. Is a Black female filmmaker. And it's just like the acting in it, like the storytelling, the writing, the cinematography, the lighting, the color, like the costumes, like it's just everything about it was just so well crafted. It's such an overtop story. It's really entertaining, and it's just love it. I really am looking, like I'm definitely paying attention to this director. I really am looking forward to her next film. So this is like her first feature. She did a lot of TV beforehand. So this is like her first feature, or second or something like that. So I really like that. Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, directed by Junta Yamaguchi. Ooh. Fucking brilliant, man. It's a one take film, like one take feature, where it's like, it's really unique, really interesting concept. I've never seen a film like this before. So it got me really excited. It's low budget, it's indie, it's Japanese, it's still doing the festival tour. So it's just starting to get into the theaters now, like check your art house cinemas. Yep. Really, really worth it. And the premise is, there's these people stuck in a 2-minute time delay. And they're just in this time loop, and it just time cycles back every 2 minutes, and it's just crazy how this escalates when you have a 2-minute time loop.
Okay, I'm in.
And then for shorts, like for animated shorts, Hugo Covarrubias, he's from Chile, did Bestia, which is on the short list for the Oscars for animation. Short animation. It probably won't make it because it's dark and creepy, and that's not an Oscar bait kind of California animation vibe, but it is amazing. And then I asked the most awkward question at the Q&A, and the guy just like, like, but like, I love that film. It is really, really dark. I don't want to give it more away, but dark, creepy animation, I have a soft spot for.
Well, spell it for us.
Oh, okay. Well, it's like about this time in like a Chilean dictatorship, and it's about this like chick that's like works for the man.
Oh no, don't like, no! I didn't say spoil it. I said spell it. Spell the movie. How does
the name, the title? He just said spell the title.
Bestia.
Yeah, I've seen that. That. I think it went to a lot of different festivals, didn't it?
Yeah. It's one of the most interesting shorts, I think, for animation to come out. And then because I'm also an animator, I had to go with Crypto Zoo. Ooh. That one is directed by Dash Shaw. And that is just a weird ass animated 90 minutes of just, I don't know what I'm watching, but it's like Yellow Submarine, Acid Trip, and Jurassic Park all together with like deadly unicorns and like all these different cryptids like kept in the zoo, and it's just really messed up. It's a really good movie. It's a good time. Those are my favorites out of the year. Those.
I heard a physicist bring up a point about unicorns. I can't remember his name, but he said that you cannot deny the way that what's the word? Epistemology. The way it works is like you can't say that the unicorn doesn't exist because it doesn't fit into science. So because I can't disprove or prove, you can't say they don't exist. Like there could be a unicorn in a cave somewhere. No one knows.
That's so true. Because did you know that gorillas used to be cryptids?
Yeah.
White people didn't believe the locals when they said they saw gorillas in the mountains, and until that was confirmed, they were cryptic. Yeah. So there is some truth to some of these stories, like local stories. So
I'm here laughing to myself because I'm just envisioning this guy walking into the woods. Ain't no gorillas, I'm gonna walk up and get.
get his fucking face ripped off.
Exactly. he made it out there with half a leg and was like, "Oh, there's gorillas."
There are gorillas in it.
We told you, bro. Like,
that's why like young people say there were black people in Australia. Yeah, there were. There were. No, there weren't. No, they would have taught me that. They would have taught me that. Like, no, they wouldn't have. No, they wouldn't have. Yeah, there's a lot of things we just don't know about. But a unicorn is a proxy for 100, the Loch Ness Monster, God, like whatever you want to throw in there. It's not an argument you should get into or discuss you should get into where you're trying to win, because it doesn't fit in to the world that physics has sort of laid out for us. Because you can't prove it or disprove it, and for it to be science, it has to be falsifiable. So anyway,
I just saw a Sprite. I just saw a Sprite fly right behind, Valerie as we were talking. I just said, like, it jumped out of one book and went into the other. I'm telling you, I saw it.
See, now that's falsifiable because I have this on video.
She knows.
I can't prove that you didn't see it.
Yeah, you can't.
I can prove Valerie that I didn't see it, and that
Valerie
anyone watching the video. But I can't.
Yeah, I'm saying nothing. I'm like, these worlds I travel in. Oh,
exactly.
Look at these little trinkets on your shelf.
She's got all sorts of good stuff back there.
She's got all sorts of goodies. If we make it to Ottawa, then we're gonna have to crash at your place.
Absolutely. You're more than welcome to come.
That's awesome. Wait, so we gotta ask the question too. So we got the stuff about the films, but we do have to ask about the books, right? And I'm not gonna go deep and have to I'm never gonna ask you your favorite, right? And I'm not gonna do that. But just give us like one or two that you read, and like one or two that you read today.
I'm reading absolute trash today. So I'm almost done, but today's book is I Was Born for This, and it's a discussion on fame. It's YA for teens, and it's a discussion on fame and idol worship and like future heroes, that kind of thing. Like try to have more in life, and it features a trans character, which is really cool. So, awesome. It's like a trashy, like, coming of age teen thing. Like nothing really, it's not literature. It's a beach read,
Right.
Like like books that have like a lot of drama in them, right?
Like a soap opera,
scenes and stuff like that.
That's
fair to say, right?
Yeah. Books that I've read recently that I really, really enjoyed. The Year of the Witching was really, really good. Okay. And that has, it was like, the world building was phenomenal, but it's like scary witches, and we got this like scary, like religion that kind of looks like Christianity, but it isn't. And then you got like, you don't know if it's like a cult in the woods or like if this is like post-apocalyptic future, but like witches exist, and talking about like dismantling patriarchal systems. Like it's like the patriarchy and misogyny just got amped up like by 10, like in this society. So it's like really scary. Like
it's like Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. And so this main character has gone in, and she's like kind of flirting with some witches, and she's sort of like the key to these curses that come onto this community that is really scary, actually. and it's like kind of like a cleansing of this community, and she just had to go save it because of the children. And I'm kind of like, this community kind of deserves it, though. I'm kind of with the witches.
Let them go down.
I'm making a promise to myself this year to read more fiction.
Yeah.
I've got a few sci-fi books back there behind me that are on cue because I've spent so much time the last 2 years reading nonfiction. And what nonfiction does is it kind of like, it tells you how things are per se, maybe, but it kind of fries you creatively over time a little bit. Like, you need to read how stories flow and break down in fiction on a regular basis. You just need to read this. So I'm so glad you're mentioning these books.
Oh yeah. Like I could probably go on more about some of my favorites, like Lullaby for Criminals by Heather O'Neill. She's like an amazing writer. I like everything she writes. Another really good writer would be Erin Morgenstern. She did the Night Circus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's what it's called. Like, if I could adapt anything, and I had like Hollywood budget, like, you know, like $1 zillion budget, and like, you know, A-list actors with like green screen, and like, I mean, yeah, that's the movie that I would want to adapt, like that one.
So with that in mind, I wanted to dig in on that real quick. So,
okay,
where do you feel like you get more of your, or most of your motivation or inspiration for your creativity? Do you get it from other animators and other animation that you've seen? Or do you get it from this, I don't even know, it's a laundry list. It's like a, you know, can I use cavalcade of books that you've got? Like, where are you getting your inspiration from for what you do? Is it the books?
Of books.
You know, there you go.
Yeah, like I honestly, like I read books, like I research random ass stuff. Like right now, I'm researching like fairies and how they exist like cross culturally, like a cross cultural reference to fairies, which they don't exist in like fairy abduction stories. So like I'm thinking of writing a script for fairy abductions. Kind of like a play on alien abductions, but they're fairies instead. Yeah. So I just get these random ass ideas. Like it's sort of like building up off of something else, you know, like be a conversation with like an interesting stranger, or it could be just travel, or it could be like a really good dinner or like it could just be something as simple as like just going through my purse and then just like I just get this idea, you know, like it's like just living life, you know, like if you're gonna tell stories, like I definitely like I watch a film every day. Like
that's awesome.
Yeah, like I that's the fun part of my job. Like so when I meet filmmakers that don't watch movies, I'm like, what do you mean you don't watch movies? Right. Like it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like, so I get it from everywhere, honestly.
That's perfect.
Living life.
Okay. That's living life, and that's the inspiration for just creativity and your animation, your expansion from one type of film into another. I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier, which I really liked, was like when you pointed to the books, you're like, these worlds back here, right? Like that's really cool to me. This idea that it's not just stories, right? Like it's a story within a world that's been built, right, by that creator. And I think that that's something that I'm sure we've already seen it in some of your work, but I'm sure we'll see it more, right? It's not just the story, it's the world that you're building in which the story exists.
See the world building on my new one.
See
the world building.
Well, we got to see it. Like
I'm doing a retelling of Dante's Inferno, right?
Oh,
I'm named after Dante. My middle name is Adonis Dante. I have two middle names. My mom and dad couldn't decide. So Adonis got to love, obviously, Dante the writer. So this is exciting for me.
Yeah. It's really, really exciting, like going into this. So it's a modern love story. Kind of like my commentary on what it's like to date in nowadays. It takes place in hell. We're gonna travel through hell. So basically, my main character is the world's ending, and she's stuck in an elevator with her fuckboy ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like it's about dating, and it takes place in hell.
So accurate.
Right.
There you go. This is great. So are you? Just promise us that you'll keep us like posted on how things are going and when we can watch it, how we can support you in any way we can.
Oh yeah, 100%. Animation just takes forever. So you won't see a movie for another year or two. We're really massively behind schedule.
All good. If I'm anything, I'm patient, Valerie.
That's right. That's right.
So it's all good. You're wonderful. You're all good. Thank you so much for your recommendations. I know the audience is going to love it. And we miss you. Please stay in touch. And actually, we'll reach out to you for mistakes in the making, like in the next couple of weeks for sure.
Okay, cool. I'll reflect on that. And I'm mainly going to be about failing and funding.
Okay, that's perfect. Exactly. It's all good. Like we can use, everyone can use the advice.
No, I don't want to.
It's all good. That's perfect.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. And I know it's probably too late to say this, but Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Yep. Here's
never too late.
I hope you stayed home and stayed safe and didn't get COVID, because everyone I know who left the house got COVID.
well, just came off the Omicron. We were okay. We still have a little bit of a cough here and there, but we did all the right things. It wasn't like we went out and like, found the place that had Omicron and walked into it. I think it came to us. Honestly, I think it found us through people that we live with, and that's and family over the holidays. I think that's kind of what happened. Well,
thank God it's not long COVID, so I'm glad you recovered.
We think we did. I'm pretty sure we did, but it happened over Christmas for both of us. I think I'm pretty sure.
Yep, it did. But we're good.
My first symptom on Christmas night. Looks like I had a tickle in my throat.
Wow.
Like when they say you get the tickle in your throat, that's legit. Like you get a little scratchy thing happening, and then it sort of. Here's what I've been telling people, and then I promise I'll let you leave after this. I promise I'll let you leave after this.
Okay.
Here's what I've been telling people. I was ripping and roaring and like running around and running errands and still like working my butt off and like doing my life stuff and feeling like I had like just this headache that wouldn't go away basically and congestion. And I'm so glad that I went ahead and took a test because, and it sounds crazy that I even have to say this or that I could say it. A positive COVID test is a socially acceptable reason to stop. And so once I got the positive, it gave me a reason just to rest, to lay in bed, get healthy, take medicine, drink tea, watch TV, watched a ton of movies, and read a ton, and felt good enough to go, but I didn't have to, and everybody understood.
That's right. Yep.
And that's what was so cool, because had I not taken the test, I would have just kept going.
Yeah, you push through it, right? That's it. It's your get out of hustle free card right there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right. So if you think you have it, go take a test. If it's positive, give yourself grace. Give yourself the grace to sit down and chill and just, like Val says, read a book a day and watch a movie a day. You're being
right.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
I'm an indoor person, as you could tell.
So it's like it worked for her anyway, right? Yeah.
That's why I haven't caught COVID. I don't leave the house.
We avoided it for like nearly 2 years. So
yeah.
So we never had it before. We were like, we're the lucky ones. We have the dragon blood or whatever, and then the tiger blood. Sorry, and it hit us. We got snapped by it like Thanos. So that's all good. That's what happened. But I think you are going to be the unicorn that never gets COVID.
That's right. I believe it.
I have an at-home production, right? Keep in mind, I'm in animation. This is what's so funny at NFB. Like when they were recording me to get me to come with them, they're like, "Oh, and you have a studio, and you won't be alone, and like you have all this crew and everything." And then COVID hits, and I'm doing a remote production.
Yeah.
So I'm still alone.
But COVID free.
But COVID free. That's right. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, here's to getting out and not having to worry about it in 2022. That's the prayer. That's the hope.
For sure.
And we'll just see how it goes. Every time one variant ends, they report a new variant, like Delta and Omicron having a baby, flu Rona. And it's like, God, we're just so over it. It's like, come on, what the hell was unleashed upon this planet on us? But I'm going to stay optimistic. 2022 is a year where we're going to see some sunshine and get some things done and stay disease and virus free, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yep. There you go.
And you checking in on you, Val. Thank you so much. You're so wonderful. You're the best. And we'll talk to you really soon.
Bye.
Yep, for sure.
Take care.
Bye.
Valerie Barnhart, folks.
That was awesome.
She's a ball of creativity and energy, isn't she?
She is. Book a day, a movie a day, dude. That's content consumption right there.
I can't believe she was able to curate down things to actually say, hey, this was the best, this was the worst.
Yeah.
With as much as she sort of, what's cool though about taking in that much content? It gives you incredible contrast and the ability to really delineate great from good and good from bad. Very similar to us with screenplays. It's like when you read enough screenplays, you recognize immediately poor structure, bad grammar, story's not going to work. You notice it right away because you've read enough screenplays where it's like all the great ones have similarity. They have super creative transitions and super great pacing. And they have the nuanced pieces that make someone great versus good or make a piece of work great versus bad. Whereas if you've read just a handful of screenplays or books or just a handful of movies, you don't know. You might, I've got someone in my family that thinks Stomp the Yard is the best movie ever made.
Yeah, but it depends on who you are and how you look at things. I was going to ask, and I kind of refrained from it, because you could get into this conversation. But for each of the folks that we just talked to, we could ask them, do you watch movies with regular people?
Non-filmmakers, you mean?
Exactly, because that's
it's hard. Alf.
You're right, because it's crazy. Think about it as a director, as an animator. You just have a different eye, right? Yeah. And I know that for me, me, and I'm I can be critical of the things that I don't think work, and sometimes I can get in the way of my enjoyment of a film. Right. So like you said, some of the greats, they have this, that, and the other. But I'm there's so much stuff out there that actually isn't great, but people love it and they rave about it. I'm yeah, but this and this didn't make sense. And they're yeah, whatever. But the performance was awesome. I was so that big story hole that the whole thing falls into at the end, you don't care about that. Yeah, whatever. It was great. It was nice. It was funny. Let it go. I'm it aggravates me.
It gets frustrating because that's such a glaring hole that we had a mutual friend named Tommy that was like that, and he couldn't get over. We watched some Denzel movie together where there was felt like there was time travel involved. I can't remember the name of that, and it was a good movie. It was entertaining. He could not get past that. He was unable to suspend his disbelief based on the science they were sort of espousing the entire movie on. The whole movie was based on the fact that you could do something that he found so implausible that the whole movie wasn't worth watching, regardless of the fact that Eva Mendes was in it and Denzel Washington, I think.
Right. So real quick, is it too early to have a conversation? And this is brief because we already had a great conversation earlier, but I could tack this on at the end. Is it too early to talk about Spider-Man and one of the issues that I have with it?
So you want to spoil it?
Yeah. Is it too early to spoil?
What are the spoiler rules?
I don't know.
This is out at theaters, but it's not streaming. I don't think we can spoil it until
it hits streaming.
Streams.
Okay, all right. I'm not gonna say anything.
But let's put a pin in it.
A pin. We're gonna put a pin in that
and make sure that we are coming back to it.
Okay.
because much like Spencer earlier, I didn't want to give anything away.
Right.
But once everyone's had a chance to digest it, I'll give you my thoughts on why Spencer failed while doing everything perfectly. Or let's say 9 out of the 10 things, let's say, that you need theoretically to make a film great. Like, it's still going to get nominated because it's too expert.
Well, same thing for Spider-Man. But right? I'm not saying I didn't, it was garbage, right? I'm not saying anything foolish like that.
Yeah.
And some of the performances were amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it all that. It's just these story holes, or one in particular that bothered me. And I think one of the reasons it bothered me so much is that I am not Hollywood. Okay. And what that means is that I am not of the upper echelon of folks who does this on a regular basis, has done it 1,000 times and seen these stories and seen all these things. So what I'm saying is that if I noticed this, why didn't they?
Yeah.
Right. And that's what bothers me. There's no way out of that film, out of the number of people who were involved, someone didn't raise their hand and be like, sir, ma'am.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I think I know what it is.
Pinning it.
And I will talk to you about it later. And we'll see because if it's what I think it is, it jumped out at me and I just decided to let it go.
You have to.
Like the ending of Inception gets you. I let it go. I thought it was like, hey, how are you? Because if you're Chris Nolan, how are you going to end this?
Oh, yeah.
And you probably screen tested it. The screen testing I don't think people realize how much technology and analysis goes into screen testing when you hire a company to do it for you. It is so in-depth. It is so, their job is to make sure your movie is profitable. We've never talked, this should be Indie Talk. We've never talked about this on Indie Talk.
Yeah.
If you can afford it, you should hire a screening company, a company that will do test screenings with a variety of groups. The type of insights you will get, you will know who to brand and market to. You'll know who likes it. You'll know if your ending works or not. You'll know if your movie works in this part of the country or that part of the country, and so much more. It's worth it if you can afford it versus setting up your own sort of screenings, in your town and with your friends and family. I think it's tough anytime you're going to do it with your friends or family. That's typically who watches it, though. Friends and family, and then your friends of your friends and family come, and then what feedback can they give you? Are they?
It won't damage the family friend dynamic,
right? Are they couching anything? That's the question. So Anyway, future topics galore. This has been a blast. Sure. But it would be crazy if we ended this without talking about this podcast and our favorite moments from 2021, just doing the Make It podcast. This was a really big year for us, Nick. I think this is, and I've told you this privately, this was the most fun I have had doing this podcast this year. And that's not to belittle or begrudge guests from 2020 or 2019 or late 2018, actually, when this thing started. I can't believe we've been doing it this long. It's such a great run. It's just, there was something about this mix of guests that just blew me away. It started early. We talked about Robert Broadhurst and Valerie earlier this year, and just them having such an interesting take on the work they're doing, and such an openness about them. Because the reality is, and this is a little bit of inside baseball to the audience, Nick, is there are times where the person we're interviewing just isn't in the sharing mood or doesn't want to overshare, or there are a lot of times where those indie creatives, even though they've been successful, they don't feel that themselves. And they feel like we're pushing a little bit too much, or they don't want to step into the spotlight at all. And then there are times where, you just get a guest and they're just not a good guest. Like they're just not somebody who likes to talk or has something fresh or original or some perspective that's just their own to provide. But 2021 was really, for the most part, devoid of that. I was really taken aback by, let's say, like Corby Linker's total soul bearing on the podcast, breaking down in tears and sharing really honest and intimate moments about his dad and his family and how he grew up. Blown away, floored by Chris Haley. Now, I should say, Nick, that I shouldn't be surprised when you look at who he is and where he comes. Like, I don't want to make it sound like Chris wasn't supposed to be a good interview. No, we knew he was going to be a great interview. I did not know he was going to teach me so much. This idea of scouring this country to find unmarked graves of slaves blows my mind.
Yeah,
because the idea that he found 3,000 in Annapolis, Maryland, there's got to be 30,000 in Tennessee.
Yeah, it's the idea that it even exists, right? It's just not something that people think about.
No one thinks. Yeah, it's like very few people are thinking about it. I'm so glad he made the film. And then his poetry, Nick. Now I think you liked If I Could.
Mm-hmm. I did.
I liked very much he did at the end.
Yeah, well,
the podcast as well. Like I thought that one. I had to catch when he finished. I was emotional. I honestly was, and I had to pause for a second before I broke back in and said, "Wow."
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why I think I connect with If I Could is just that. I mean, honestly, I think everyone can connect with it, in their own way. It's just if you see it, right, and you see the words on the page, it is like he said, it's like it can kind of be off-putting a bit, right? Because it's if I could die, right? It's like just for a day, just for a moment, if I could die, and it's like, whoa, that's tough, man. Like that's serious. Like, are you okay? Like, that's like, no. That's not what I'm saying, right? And I've been in that space where it's just like if I could just escape, right? Because that idea of dying is basically in that context going to another world, right? Going to another space where everything else doesn't exist anymore. It's not a problem. It's not if I could take a vacation, because if you take a vacation, all that crap is still back at home, right? It follows you, but it doesn't follow you into death, right? And that was that thing where it's just like when you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, if you could just escape the weight for a day, for a minute, for a moment, whatever that is, to be free of it, that would be beautiful. That might be heaven, right? And I think, to kind of take it back to another guest, which is Travis Nicholson, meditation, right? Reflection, sitting in a moment where maybe you just breathe, right? Maybe the escape is 5 to 10 minutes of breathing and just getting out of your head for a moment, right? Like maybe that's what it is. So I think like everyone has this in them, which is why everyone has some sort of escape, right? So that was one of the ones that hit me, pretty hard. And like I said, Travis dropping knowledge on, whether it's yoga, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's, your chakras and being in alignment with those. Is just, hey, look, you might need to tap into something that's out of this world right, in order to find peace and sanctity. And, and I really kind of tied into that as well from Travis.
Well, I also love from Travis just his ability to sort of level set, with you in a very relatable way as a creative. Like, hey, you need to like fight for what is yours.
That's right.
Like, if you believe in it and you believe you should get the credit for it, you don't have to be pushed around just because you don't have a name or because somebody has more credits than you or the money people are threatening you. And the reason I think that hit home with me so much is that there are these filmmakers that we've worked with in the past where that's happened to them, where they've let the big name or the person with the money come in and give a threat, and they gave into it. And because it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. You don't know. It's almost like getting, a cancer diagnosis. Whenever you hear about someone having cancer, the first thing that happens is you or someone in the room starts to give all the different ways they heard that you can beat cancer without chemo. First thing that happens. But when you get in the shoes of the person with the cancer, do they have, and would you have the courage to go against your doctor's orders if he says your best chance of survival, this is your life, your best chance of survival is chemo? And that's really difficult. So as a filmmaker, it's like, you do this or you're ruined, or you do this and your movie won't be successful or will be successful. This might be the only movie I make. Let's just play ball. And you end up, but Travis is like, no, it's really scary. It's almost like the hero's journey. It's really scary, but you're going to come out the other side a changed person, and you're going to come out the other side.
Yeah, but he had, and it's good that you mentioned the hero's journey, because he definitely had a guide. He had people behind him, right? That he told him, hey, stick to your guns, bro. You earn this, you deserve it. Stick to your guns, right? And again, like you said, a lot of folks don't listen to that sage advice, right? And they get tripped up by it. But he listened, right? And those people stuck by him, and he got what he deserved, right? Which is the credits that he deserved. And it's awesome. It is a great story.
This whole conversation, we've had people tell us their favorites of 2021 and be very definitive. And then, I heard you say to Valerie, I'm not going to hold you to one because you read so much. Like, just give me a couple of your favorites. This is how I feel about our podcast conversations this year.
Oh, yeah.
During 2021. It might be that, like, I'm a big, like, let's be definitive. What was your favorite? Or, and maybe what was your one or two? In this case, I'm going to stick with the Nick methodology. I think it's really hard to say that was my favorite, or this was my favorite, or this was the best, or that was the best. When really what it is that was the best for my intellect. Like, so Michael McRae, for example. That was like being in college and having a professor teach you something, but something scandalous, something you're not supposed to know so much about. And the line I think you broke out from this was, you have a 5% chance of winning your whistleblower case, but a 10% chance of committing suicide.
Dude, that floored me. I don't know how many people I told after that. I mean, that is daunting.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, like he said it, it's, you look at those numbers, right? 5 and 10. Mm-hmm. You're twice as likely to commit suicide as a whistleblower than you are to win your case. Twice as likely. Man, floored.
Yeah, and that doesn't even talk about sort of the day-to-day anguish. Because I spoke with my family. I couldn't stop talking about the interview after I got done. So this was even before it published.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there talking to folks for weeks, and people in the family like, if I actually saw something corrupt and wanted to be a whistleblower, how would you guys respond to that? And it really caused this pause, which is like, I really don't know if I'd want you to be a hero. I really don't know if I'd want you to walk that line and ruin all of our lives for something we didn't even care about.
There you go.
And so that's not suicide. But that's probably going to happen. Like, your whole family's probably going to leave you in the.
It's a suicide of sorts.
Righteous.
It's suicide of sorts, right? Like, it's the death of the relationship you have with your family, right? That is huge, right? That is, and especially if you can't get it back. I mean, that's huge, man. Right? And so that whole whistleblower world. Right? Like, it's a world in itself. Like, it's just something that we had no idea about, that we were taught a lot about. And it's, like I said, like, everybody loves whistleblower stories, but I don't know how many people are telling them.
I guess, the book right there.
Yeah.
And to me, that compares with our interview with Michael. I mean,
right.
And you might get more in terms of what it's really like from the interview than you would from a whistleblower book. So everybody should check that one out. So in the category of favorite guest that humbled me, Alex Schmitter.
Yeah.
Our first trans guest, as far as we know. But man, did I misunderstand the point before we researched Alex and spoke to him. And he's so gracious and smart and thoughtful on the topic, and not at all sort of like, his goal wasn't to push anyone out.
That's right.
The way he spoke was, let me bring you in and embrace you and not judge you for whatever ignorance you may have, which I feel like I started with, right? I was like, okay, I know I'm ignorant here. He came in and laid it all on the line, and plus his movies, in a humble way, by the way, and plus his movies are excellent. Like, sometimes we'll interview someone and the point is they've made a movie in the indie space. That's the point. They've made a movie. How did they do it? Let's break it down for the audience so they can find out how they can make their movie. And sometimes the movie's just, it's okay. But that wasn't the point, whether it was like an Oscar winner or not. The point was, no, Alex's movies are great. Everybody should see them. He did a great job. So I don't know. Any thoughts on Alex Schmitter?
Yeah, I'd say the same. I'll have to say that his delivery, right? Like, it honestly felt like you're talking to a really good friend.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't like the person, again, he's not talking at you in any way. He's not forcing an opinion on you. It's honestly, it's weird. It was like, you're having a conversation and his arm is around you. Right. Like, that's what it felt like. Like, this is cool, man. Like, this is comfortable. We're going to talk about this, but guess what? I'm going to educate you a little bit along the way. Right. I'm going to make you think about things a little bit more, differently. Like, disclosure, you got to see it. You got to see it. You make it for what it is you want it to be, what you need it to be. But for me, it was eye-opening. Right. And I think one of the ways that he was even more eye-opening for me was, if I just take it out of the context of transgender and I put it in the context of African American, right? So, like, if I had seen films that portrayed African American males in a certain way, how would that make me feel?
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't want it to be about them, right? Those transgender people, like, it's not, they are me, right? They are people. They're human beings, right? Like,
right.
And I think that's what Alex was basically saying is, like, just listen for the purpose of understanding. Like, I'm not asking you to listen for the purpose of agreeing, right? Like, you don't need to come to this side. I don't need to change. I need you to understand. Like, as long as you understand as a human how something like this could be hurtful or whatever, like, that's enough. right? And I think that's what I got from him. And then from watching Disclosure, it was just like, yeah, now I understand more. And again, yeah, it was just great conversation.
So who do you have on your favorite conversation list? Are there any more conversations that jump out to you as like some of your favorite of the year?
Yeah, one of the ones that jumps out at me was, of course, Sheila Andreen.
Yeah.
I think for me, there's a lot there. So, because one, she's just this, positive ball of energy.
She's a
right. That you can feel through the universe, but she's also, like you said, she's a juggernaut in that, she's started, indie flicks, and like there's so much to what she is doing, not just for film and not just for independent film, but for humans, for people, right? Through the lens, right, of film. So there are so many things that she's doing that are going out to schools, across the country,
Her business model talk is priceless.
Yeah, because it is what we talk, right? It's like, if you can be more than an individual film, right, then you have a lot more to stand on. And, her current project, Race to Be Human, is a perfect example of that, right? So I would invite everybody to go look that up, Race to Be Human. And there's a lot of story behind that. There's purpose behind it, right? There is passion behind it. There is education behind it. There's a zeitgeist, right, that we're in right now that's behind it. There's educational material that supports it, right? There's a campaign. It's not just a movie. It's not like, just go watch this thing, right? And it's a series, but it's like, go learn, go share, right? Go be a part of this thing. And that's different than just a movie, right? We were talking earlier about, going to the theater and having an experience.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Sheila is creating. She's creating experiences around these topics that she's discussing via film. And I think it's just an amazing thing. I love everything about it.
Totally agree with you there. You might have say this next, but I've got to mention Alexis Gambis.
Oh yeah, Lexi, yeah.
Lexi, which is what he goes by. And the reason why for me is that, to me, he's the filmmaker to watch. He's the guy that we interviewed this year that I said to myself, he has a POV. And at some point, he's going to make an Academy Award-winning film. I just get that sense from him that he has
I agree.
Such a strong POV and such a great command of what he wants to do. That's really rare. It's really, really rare. He's not copying anybody. If you go watch his films, they're not like anything you've ever seen or you're ever going to see. He's in his own lane, and he's friends with Spike Lee. So
right, and he's working in a pipeline of high-level content creation.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's got, again, that Spike Lee Film Production Fund, that goes to graduate students at Tisch. Again, like you said, his own point of view. He's focused on, with La Bocina, you got the Netflix of science-based films. Like, it's a whole thing. And you can go through there and I know people swipe TikTok. But like, if you're into science-based stuff, like, you can get deep, right, into La Bocina. There's so much there. And everyone has the point of view. Everyone has a different topic they're discussing. And you can learn a lot while also being kind of enamored by the filmmaking of it. Because some of this stuff, man, they bring some things together that you wouldn't ever expect. But they do it in such a masterful way to teach you something. Yeah. So, I agree that he's off to some wonderful places, doing great things with great people. And we're just going to keep watching that trajectory because is skyrocketing, man. It's shooting way up.
We have to make it out to Labo Cine as well, to his film festival.
His film festival, yeah.
I think it's an international trip, Nick.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
We might have to get like shots in the stomach or something. But no, whenever it feels like we should do that and we can do that, we should go do that. That sounds like a good freaking time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Happen. Favorite, there are people. What did I say earlier about so there are people who just aren't good at being on the microphone because they don't do it a lot. Like they're filmmakers or they're doing their thing. They're great at that. But they don't get on, they don't have conversations like this, right? The person who does do that sticks out is Alex Ferrari. He is so good on the microphone. You can tell this is what he does for a living, because when he tells you a story, he tells it in such an animated and voracious and interesting way. A lot of times when someone is speaking, and they're speaking, let's say, quickly, it can kind of get on you a little bit, and you're like, ugh. He has mastered how to ebb and flow and have the rhythm and just tell you a story, and then take the wealth of knowledge from his past podcast guests and his own experience, and then wrap a lesson up in the story.
Yeah.
or wrap a warning in the story, or this is a situation, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, and
props to Alex Ferrari. Appreciate him for coming on.
And I'll jump in on that one too.
100th episode as well, 100th conversation.
There we go. Perfect person to have on for the 100th episode. But I'll also add to that his storytelling is natural, but the other part of it is it's very genuine, right? Like he's got nothing to hide when he's talking to you.
Yeah.
Right. He's putting it out there because of what he does, right? He's trying to educate. He's trying to, like you said, warn in some place. He's trying to advise. He's trying to just be real, right? And I think that's what he's based his podcast off, is just being real and sharing his real experiences throughout all this. So that's another thing that I got from him. And the fact that, hey, he's hustling, folks. Yeah. He's legit. It says the indie film hustle, he's hustling, right? Yeah. And it's true to who he is in his heart of hearts, that he's a hustler. And it was good to hear that. Exactly. Not just a tagline. It's legit.
He's walking the walk, and he has, the results vary, to keep it 100, right? But which he would appreciate. But what's consistent is the dude has ideas, man.
That's right.
He has hustle ideas. How are we going to do it? Nothing's getting in my way. And there's a wall. Let me make a hole through it.
Right.
show you how to do it. Yeah. This is the longest indie talk we've ever done.
It is the most.
It's just flown by. It's been a blast. I don't mind it. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Christian Gregory. Save maybe the best for last. I don't know. His dad, Dick, meant a lot to us. Meant a lot to how our company got formatted, how it came to fruition, the inspiration to go into film instead of tech in publishing, which is what we originally started out doing. We might circle back on that, who knows, because those things seem to converge with what we're doing now. But the courage and the understanding to go into film, and the motivation and inspiration of the world that just surrounded him was meaningful. And then to have Christian come on, who had been so gracious to us for as long as he's known us, and then just give us the full Christian Gregory experience. You know what I mean?
It was awesome, dude. At length, bro. At length, because there's so many stories to tell. And I have to give it to him. I mean, honestly, out of all the guests, might have been the best storyteller. Best storyteller, yep. Right, I'll have to give it that. It's just the best story. And you're you're in it. You're 2 feet in, like you're just listening to this, and I swear there's parts of those stories that I can see in my mind. You know, like the kids taking the car.
Alex Ferrari makes a mundane story good, and Christian is a better storyteller because his stories are about people the entire world knows.
Exactly, and it's just, you know, there's a depth to every,
and it's real.
Yeah, every piece.
Not him
of
just
it
name
was,
dropping.
Exactly, but there was a piece. I mean, every piece of it, like I said, it was tangible in my mind. Right, I could envision all of it, and you know, there was a lot of it. It was just so much great content, such great conversation. It was a lot, and it was a lot to, you know, to consume for a lot of people. And I hope that people made it all the way through. If it took you 2 days, right, it's all good. Make it through it. And if you haven't listened, you got to listen. I mean, you're gonna laugh in this. You're gonna learn in this. You know, it's just it was just a great conversation.
I totally agree. Cannot wait to do a round 2 with Christian. It's probably going to be very similar to the first round. It's going to be long. And somewhere deep down, I hope that one of our guests had mentioned the documentary is one of the best indie films to come out this year about his dad. It was one of my favorite things. I saw this in 2021.
Yeah, so, the one and only Dick Gregory.
One and only Dick Gregory. So if no one said it, we said it. Go watch the one and only Dick Gregory wherever you can see it. Andre Gaines directed. Great job there. And I think we did the thing, Nick, but I don't want to leave this conversation without giving our 2021 best friends of Bonsai and the Make It podcast in particular. Lori Peterson-Waite, we love you. Been a supporter since the beginning, helping us behind the scenes in ways that go unnoticed by most, but not by us. Cookie McCrae, you've been a real friend. Thank you so much for doing the things you've done behind the scenes. There's countless times that she has provided assistance on a variety of conversations. I'll just put it that way, and I'll leave the rest of it a secret.
Yeah.
Chris Connor has been a rock for us and just a wonderful supporter of ours. Mark Jackson, Mark D. Jackson, awesome guy, awesome dude, solid dude. I hope I'm not leaving anybody else out. Of course, our own team, Elise Bakken, Jason McConnell, Matt Williams, the whole crew, Papa Bear,
Randall B. Yeah.
And everybody, every filmmaker that came to the filmmaker dinners this year, that was one of the best things we decided to do in 2021. It is an unbelievable time and unreal networking, unreal food, unreal wine. It just is like the best conversations, total inside baseball stuff. It was great. So if you guys were a part of that, thank you. And for this audience, maybe one day we will host a little conference, Nick. And we'll charge some amount per head or something. And we'll do a massive sort of bonsai filmmaker dinner. Everybody else is doing film festivals, right? Sundance is coming up. It's going to be virtual. That sucks, but it is what it is. Wish it could be in person. But what Bonsai might do in the Make It podcast is we might just have a dinner festival.
There you go.
You just bring a bunch of people in and we just eat, converse, and drink and network like crazy. And some producer is going to meet some director, some cinematographer is going to meet some line producer, some screenwriter is going to meet some great actor. It's just going to be great. So let's workshop that. And like,
there you go. Let's talk about it.
Happen early 2023 or something like that.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it. So, Nick, do you have anything to add to everything I just said? Did I leave anybody out?
I'll just say this, that, I've got a list of even more great conversations, great points, folks that came on, but we don't want to be exhausted, right? We don't want to make this any longer than it needs to be. but I just want to give a shout out, right? If we didn't say your name in this podcast, that doesn't mean that you've been left out, right? There's a lot of love that has come through these conversations. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of short films, feature films that we really adored from the folks that we work with and that we, had these conversations with. So like, don't feel left out. You guys are all awesome. 2021 was, like Chris said, is one of the best years for the podcast. And every last one of you was a critical part of that and a springboard for 2022. So we love you all. We appreciate you.
Well said. And if you want to tell us who we left out or how much you love us or how much you hate us, you can do that at contact@bonsai.film. That's an email address, as I've mentioned in the past. So email us, let us know how you feel. If you want to get in touch with Nick and maybe give him some questions, concerns, queries, you name it, he'd love for you to reach out to him at his email address, nick@bonsai.film. You can find me on Twitter at @FlameInYourHeart, or you can just search for Christopher Barkley and I will come right up. Feel free to tweet at me, DM me, whatever you want to do. On the socials, it's _Bonsai Creative, although we have some cool things coming for social very, very soon. So we may switch that up, but for now, _Bonsai Creative. And then, of course, our website is our number one resource, www.bonsai.film. You can go there, get everything you need about bonsai, but also everything you want to know and learn about the Make It podcast and how to support it, how to be a part of it, how to listen to it. It's all right there on the website. We also have an incredible blog called Industry Insights, where you can click on that and read all the most important things that are happening in and around independent film. And I don't think I left anything out, Nick. Do we have a link on the website yet where people can sign up for our newsletter?
No, we have you can sign up for the Industry Insights blog post. And, when you do that, it signs up for the newsletter as well. So that's a good place to go. So
go to bonsai.film, go to Industry Insights blog, and then sign up there. That'll get you part of the newsletter. We do it every 2 weeks. COVID. Every 2 weeks, we send out a newsletter. It's gotten rave reviews so far. We are super proud of it. It has, I want to say, a 50% plus open rate so far. It's like incredible in this newsletter game, I'm told. So keep it up, guys. We'll keep working for you. Keep trying to put together and curate the most interesting things for you possible, and the most important things, not just interesting, but important and valuable things that you can use in your own career to make your content and your career either easier or better. And that's always been our goal. And so with that in mind, Nick, can you give us the credo?
But of course. So folks, be better, be creative, be engaged.
And thank you for listening. Nick, on to 2022 we go.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Take it easy, man.
You too.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.
You've been listening to the Make It podcast. To find out more information about this week's topics, including links to relevant blog posts, projects, and indie creatives, please visit our website at www.bonsai.film. If you haven't already, you can join our podcast community on Apple Podcasts or the podcast app of your choice by searching for Make It Bonsai Creative, and the show will pop right up. You now have the opportunity to support the production of this podcast. If you love Make It and are a true fan of what we're trying to accomplish in the indie film community, please visit www.bonsai.film and click Contribute. Contributions start at only $5 monthly. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at _Bonsai Creative, and on Facebook by searching for Bonsai Creative. You can provide feedback to us via email at contact@bonsai.film, and you can follow me, Chris, on Twitter at FlameInYourHeart. That's FLAMEINURHEART. And of course, if you're looking to take a big step towards your filmmaking success, go to www.bonsai.film and click on Services to explore a variety of offerings from keynotes and panels to pitch readiness assessments and so much more. You have everything to gain. Until next time, be better, be creative, be engaged, and thank you for listening.